Okay, we'll get started. Good morning, everyone, for today's distinguished webinar series in AI and cybersecurity. Today's speaker is Dr. Reynold Cheng, Professor, Department of Computer Science, Associate Dean, Department of Engineering at the University of Hong Kong. The title for today's talk is Data Science for Social Goods, STAR Labs Experience. Dr. Cheng is a professor for Department of Computer Science at HKU. He's an academic advisor to the College of Professional and Continuing Education of HKPU. His research interests are in data science, big graph analytics, and uncertain data management. He received his BEng Computer Engineering in 1998 and MPhil in 2000 from HKU. He then obtained his MSc and PhD degrees from Department of Computer Science of Purdue University in 2003 and 2005. Professor Cheng received the ACM Distinguished Membership Award and the HKU Outstanding Research Student Supervisor Award in 2023. He was listed as the world's top 2% outstanding scientist by Stanford University in 2022 and named 2024 and 2023 AI. Jameson, could you zoom in? I can't read. 2000 AI 2000 Most Influential Scholar, Honorable Mention Database. He received the Sigmoid Research Highlights Reward 2020, HKICT Awards 2021 and 2023, and HKU Knowledge Exchange Award in 2021. He was granted an Outstanding Young Researcher Award in 2011-12. He received the university's 21 Fellowship in 2021 and 2 Performance Awards from HKPU Computing in 2006 and 2007. He is a member of IEEE, ACM, ACM Sigmoid, and UPE. He was a program committee co-chair of IEEE ICDE 2021, has been serving on the program committees and review panels for leading database conference and journals like Sigmoid, VLDB, ICDE, KDD, IGCAI, AAAI, and TOTS. He's an editorial board of AIS, IS, and DAPD, and was a former editorial board member of TKD. That's quite a mouthful of accomplishments, and it's a great honor to have you here at part of the webinar series at UND. Thank you so much for accepting our invite, Dr. Cheng, and the floor is yours to share your slides.
Thank you very much, Professor Raghunathan. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so actually it is almost like 10 p.m. here in my time zone. Okay, but I'm very happy and passionate to share my research work with you, to other colleagues at UND and also audience. So today I'm going to share something which I think is very meaningful. Okay, at the same time, it's also a challenge to me because I'm more used to publish papers. Okay, but because of opportunity, okay, I had a chance to participate in some applied work in social science. Okay, so I would like to share my experience, my journey with you. So let me share my screen. Okay, so can you see my screen? Okay, so the story is like this. Okay, so the fact is that in many cities, okay, including the Hong Kong city, actually, it is very crowded and very densely populated. Our city has more than 7 million people. So it is a really challenge, especially because of better health and better medical services. Okay, people tend to have longer age. Okay, on the other hand, because of this, the aging population causes a lot of problems, especially the resources for serving the elders becomes more and more stretched. For example, there are some statistics to share, like in Hong Kong, one volunteer can only serve for 10 elders, and there is a huge shortage of the staff in elderly centers. And at the same time, a lot of elders have to wait for residential care for more than 38 months before they can get the residential services. In fact, in many statistics, okay, it is not a surprise to see that the number of people who are more than 65 years old tend to be increasing. In 2041, it is projected that more than 30% of the population in Hong Kong will be more than 65 years old. So in fact, this causes a lot of problem because On the other hand, the government has invested a lot to try to build more elderly care centers to help the elders, but at the same time, because of the very fast growth of the number of elders, it becomes obvious that the professional help is not sufficient. So that is why we have to think about whether there are other resources. For example, in the community, is it possible that we could leverage the more citizens to participate in a volunteering manner to help the elders, or in general, people who are in need of help and services? Okay, so that is why in the recent years, the concept of time banking come into place. So what is time banking? In fact, time banking is a very simple concept. Basically, it means that everyone has a bank account, but this account does not store our real cash or money, but it stores the number of hours of services when you are doing your volunteering services. Okay, so basically, for example, if I serve someone for 1 hour, I gain 1 time credit. And this time credit will be stored into your account. And later on, you can use this time credit to pay for other services or exchange for other goods. So the time banking starts in Europe maybe about 30 years ago. And now different countries also set up their own time banking scheme. So it is actually a very interesting social project. And in this area, what we are doing is we are trying to provide some IT support to encourage time banking. Okay, so basically the main idea here is that we want to make time banking easy for everyone. So basically, if you look at this figure, what we're doing essentially is to have an app for user, whether this user is someone who needs to help, or an elder who wants someone to help them, right? Or it could be also a volunteer who wants to spend some time, instead of going to see movies, okay, they want to go to buy lunch boxes for elders, or bring them to hospitals, or bring them to picnic, etc. Okay, so we start with a little project, okay, about 5 years ago, okay, in which we got support of about 4 million Hong Kong dollars from the Hong Kong ITF funding agency. Okay, and when we are growing our support, okay, more and more NGOs and charity organizations find our app useful to them. So that is why now we are still doing this. So we call this app HINCare, HINCare. Later on, I will explain what HIN is. And here, the HINCare is an app in which it is available in the mainstream app store. Okay. And in fact, this is a collaboration among many departments, and not just our computer science departments, but also the social work department, our new Institute of Data Science, as well as government. Okay. And right now, okay, due to a lot of support from the NGOs, okay, and it seems that, okay, our work has also created some impact. More and more users join. So right now, up to yesterday, we have already found that we have 10,000 users, okay, from 18 NGOs using our services. Okay, so these are just some logos for the NGOs. And basically what this HINCare is essentially consisting of 2 things. First of all, it's a front end. So the front end basically is the main user interface to those users who want to help people or want to get some services from the app. And then we have the back-end service, which is to provide some data analytics support to the social workers. So our app is mainly designed for time banking, but it is also a platform because, as you can see, that we have one app, one platform, but many NGOs can join. In fact, we can support more than 100 NGOs in a cloud-based platform, which I will also talk about later. And we have also developed some AI there, in which we could allow the so-called intelligent matching of the users who want to help or users who need help. So let me just give a brief idea about what this mobile app is. Basically, this mobile app allows a user to act as either a service recipient. For example, if I'm very old, okay, I cannot buy food myself, okay, then I can use this app to order, to ask someone to help. Or if I'm a service provider, I can also find the services to perform. So it is designed with these users in mind because they may not be able to make a lot of very complicated requests. So we try to make the user interfaces as simple as possible. And the app basically is very simple, although it is in Chinese version. Well, actually, I will also show you an English version later. So this app allows the users to provide service and also check their bank balance. But this bank balance, again, okay, is not the real money. It is the time credit that they have earned because of their hours of services. So they can use this app, right, to check what are the gifts provided by the NGOs. Okay, for example, the NGOs provide these cup mats which are made by the elder members, right, and it cost 120 time credits, right? And they can also exchange some doors or even attend computer classes once they earn enough time credits. Okay, and due to the popularity of our app, we have now also been serving some NGOs whose the majority of the members are English speaking. So that is why we have also an English version of the app for them. So next, I'm going to show a short video which try to capture the main features of our HINCare app. Okay, so basically this short video that introduces some features for our system. So now I want to get into the back-end design of our system. Okay, so the first interesting feature about this HINCare app is that in the cloud-based platform, we are not supporting just one organization. Actually, we start with only one organization, but then more and more organizations come and we soon find that it is impossible to make an app for each of these organizations. And also it is not necessary because most of these organizations come to us because they have some form of volunteering activities and they also use the time credits or some forms of record or accounting to try to tell the volunteer about how many hours of services that they have done. So that is why we find that most of these organizations, actually, if they're just doing time banking, they do not have a lot of variation in their services. So that is why we take a major decision in our design in which we redevelop our architecture so that now instead of having one organization knock on our door and then we provide an app to them, now they only need to answer us several questions about what is the mode of time banking they want. So I give you an example. Okay, so suppose that I'm an NGO which has a number of services to provide. Say, for example, I provide the service of bringing the elders to the hospital, or I organize some picnic for them, or I allow some volunteers to go to the homes of the elders to do the household services, for example. Okay, so this list of services, okay, of this NGO may be different from another NGO. Okay, but to us, okay, this is just a list of services. Okay, as another example, an NGO may think that after the user has provided 1 hour of service, he only gain 1 time credit. But another NGO may want to give 1 time credit for every 15 minutes of services. Okay, so these differences, okay, basically what are the main characteristics of the time banking for each NGO. So that is why we give the NGO some forms to fill electronically. And after that, we can already create an environment for them. And they can just log in the system, okay? And they only see their own environment, okay? So in this way, we are able to support more and more NGOs without the need of redeveloping a very, very similar app for them. Okay. And then here in this figure, we show some of these statistics. So basically, they are just some data that allows the NGO to view the different characteristics of the users. For example, whether this user is an active user, or this user just creates an account, but he does not do any volunteering or does not participate in any services. Okay. And then we could also, in the bottom, show some data statistics about how many people have applied to be volunteer in the past few years and so on. So in fact, we are now refining the data analytic part so that the NGOs can see more and more about their data related to the volunteering activities. Okay, and we could generate in the back end about some of these figures. Okay, although this is in Chinese, basically, what this figure is showing is the different proportion of the users in different services. So for this NGO, for example, we find that most of the users are interested in learning how to use mobile phones. Okay, and some of them, they are also interested in cognitive stimulation therapy. And in another NGO, okay, we could also show in the back end, okay, to the NGO about the distribution of the services, and different NGO may be interested or popular in several different services. For example, this Christian Family Service Center, they're interested in telephone condolences and accompanying for activities. Okay, so these very simple statistic analysis are very useful to the NGOs because it allows them to try to see whether they should strategically reallocate their services to try to help people that need the most of these services. Okay, and in fact, you find that these things are very simple, but I can tell you, when we start working for one of the first NGO who is very actively in pushing the time banking concept, in the very beginning, do you think that they have an app? Actually, they don't have an app. They just have a small notebook, okay, in paper, and anytime when an elder requests for a service, a volunteer provide a service, they have to write down, okay, in pencil, okay, or pen, okay, on the notebook. So there is no app at all. So our app has already helped them significantly in terms of reducing a lot of their administrative burden. So now I also want to talk about the one interesting feature of our app is about the so-called hyper matching issue. So what is this thing about? Now, in this app, okay, although you cannot probably read this, okay, basically this screen is showing a number of volunteers that could be suggested. So for example, if I'm a user, okay, I want someone to do household duties for me, household services for me at a certain particular time and date, okay? Then our app should be able to list a number of volunteers that allow the user to choose. But this is an issue because, first of all, I don't know, I may not know the volunteer, right? And how do I know whether this volunteer is good for me or not? So just like, okay, if you're searching in a Google or search engine, right? You may have a lot of homepages, but Google also try to rearrange the homepages so that those most relevant or interested to you will be shown first, right? So that is why here we have the similar issue. If we have a list of volunteers, which are the volunteers we should show first, right? So how can we basically identify the best volunteers who are the most suitable to the user who require the services? Okay, so that is the problem. And the idea or method that we try to take here is to try to borrow the wisdom of item recommendation, right? Because recently I'm also studying this problem. So that is why we try to ask the question, whether the item recommendation problem that has been studied for e-commerce and online platforms, is it possible for this recommendation concept also be borrowed to our app? Okay? So in particular, what item recommendation is basically the suggestion of products to users on online platforms. Like if you are accessing Amazon, for example, right, they will recommend products for you. Hopefully, you could buy more, right? And in movie platforms, right, like Netflix or Disney Plus, right, they can also recommend movies to you based on learning what are the movies that you have been watching. So then we want to ask the question: is it also possible that we could somehow recommend the most appropriate helpers to the elders, or in general, all the users in need of the services? So basically, the question is, how can we match the talents of the helpers to the need of the users? Okay, and how can we do this? In fact, there are many recommender systems to do this. In our approach, okay, we try to make use of the relationship information between the helpers, between the helpers and the users and the elders, and build a graph for them, which we call it HIN, or Heterogeneous Information Network. Well, Heterogeneous Information Network, or HIN, right? In fact, okay, I think it is not foreign to you at all, because it has been finding a lot of applications these days, right? In Facebook, knowledge base, protein network, user item purchase graph, and a lot of machine learning in graph, okay, using GNN methods, for example. They also make use of graph or HIN to do a better model learning task. So as a more detailed example, suppose we also want to build a IMDb movie network, okay, in which this network consists of a lot of nodes, in which each node could represent actors or movies, okay? And we also have the link which connect the different nodes together, reflecting what are the relationships. For example, the blue link could represent that this is the company who make the movie, okay, or the black link will represent the actors the participating in the movie. So the HIN basically consists a lot of information characterizing the link and the nodes besides just the structure. So in many of this research, basically the question is, how can we make use of this HIN? So here in this figure, we give you a conceptual diagram about this HIN, okay? So for our purpose, what we're trying to do is we try to connect different elders and the helpers based on the previous service history. For example, you can see that in each of the link, the helpers, okay, is labeled with the activities in which, okay, they have helped the certain elders before, okay? And besides that, each of the node modeling the elders or users also contain other information, such as the occupation, gender, age, address, and so on. So it is a very sophisticated network with a lot of label or textual information, and also some structural information talking about what are the relationships. So in order to do this, first of all, we have to also build a schema, okay, in order to try to govern the structure of this HIN. So you can see that there are a lot of bubbles here representing the nodes and the edges, which are not going into the detail. But in fact, I can tell you this task is much more complicated than we think, okay, because of the various ways that we can make a schema. In fact, we have to try many different schemas, and we are still not very satisfied with this, okay? So we are trying to see whether it is possible to have a schema which allows us to do a good job in recommendation. Okay, and besides recommendation, we also want to try to extract some of the interesting phenomenon between different users. So one of the technique, okay, to try to make sense of this HIN is to extract the so-called meta paths. So here, let me tell you what a meta path is. So suppose that we have this HIN, okay, which connects the former presidents Barack Obama and his family, right? And we could probably, okay, extract some of the paths representing the relationship. So what a meta path is basically is a high-level relationship connecting different nodes. Okay. So for example, okay, from this very small knowledge graph, okay, we can say that the U.S. president and the first ladies are related because they share a child. Okay, so they have a has-child relationship, okay, connecting to a certain person, and the person has a reverse relationship of has-child to the US First Lady. And in fact, okay, there are many meta paths which could be used to tell the relationship about this family. For example, whether the US First Lady and the President belongs to the same political party, or they are the citizens of the same country. So the meta paths are very useful in the sense that they give us some high-level relationship among the nodes. Okay, so the HIN, has a lot of things there, right? A lot of information. So the meta path are trying to see if it is possible to extract the most important relationship that could describe a very important relationship among the two nodes. And with these meta paths, hopefully we can design better machine learning or graph-based algorithms. Okay, so one of the main issues about the meta path is that it is important to find the right meta paths to do recommender system or other applications. Okay, so before our research, okay, most of the papers about meta paths is assume that the meta paths are known already, and those meta paths then be used to do clustering, classifications, or other kind of task. Okay, but we challenge about this belief, and we find that it is important for us to find the best meta paths first, so that we can understand the relationship clearly before we design graph mining algorithms. Okay, so because of this, we start our research in this area in 2015. Okay, and then after a lot of hard work, okay, we lucky to have some papers, and in fact, just in this year in May, we have also a demonstration about how meta paths can be used to support HINCare. Okay, so as a preliminary example, okay, here I show some of the meta paths that we have found from the HINs of 2 NGOs. Okay, and here we could see that there are a lot of these things. Okay, basically they are the meta paths talking about how the two users are related. Okay, so for example, some of the very simple meta paths like the user related. Okay, so these are identified to be important connections. Okay. Some of the meta paths are longer, and the relation is not so obvious. For example, two users are connected, okay, because they're connected to a third user, okay, through the service and events, for example. Okay, so here, okay, the interesting question is whether we could look at this meta path and try to reason about what are relationships between the user. Secondly, we want to see how we can use these meta paths to also help us to do recommendation better. Okay, and the main challenge here actually is because, okay, in our system actually there are not many users and not many connections. Okay, so that is why we also try to use our HIN, okay, builds for this small number of users and try a number of meta path and non-meta path based recommender systems. Right, so I'm not going to get into detail, okay, but the current results are quite promising because it seems to us that, okay, with those recommender systems that based on HIN methods, we find that they achieve satisfactory results. Okay, in fact, they outperform other models by up to 10%. But I have to admit that, okay, at this point, okay, because this data is very little, so we still have to do more analysis, and also we wait for more volunteers to join our system, okay, and also they are more active, and then we have a larger HIN so that we could try to produce more robust results. Okay. And here, okay, I want to use the rest of the time to share some other stuff, okay, about our HINCare. So first of all, we do some data analysis about the age distribution of the users. And we find that, okay, because our primary targets are elders, so most of them are more than 65 years old, but there are also very few very young users, okay? And the figure on the right is quite interesting. It is showing that more than about a three-fourths of the users are females. Okay, so that means, okay, the female participants are more active than the males. Okay, and then, okay, here in this figure, we want to show the correlations among the age of the requesters and their helpers. Okay, so basically the main area we find interesting is that the requesters, okay, most of them, they are quite old, okay, but those helpers, okay, they're not that old. There's a term, they are called young olds, okay. So these young olds is just about 60 to 70 years old, okay. And in fact, okay, what we want to say, the main message here is that although these users, okay, especially those helpers, okay, they may be retired already, because in Hong Kong, okay, our retirement age is like a 60 or 65, right? I know that in US you don't have retirement age, right? Yeah, but here, okay, we want to give the clear message, right, to those people who just retired, that they're still very useful to the community. In fact, okay, if they could actively participate in time banking, they could really provide some help to some people in need, and to alleviate the shortage problem of volunteers. Okay, so here in this figure, I want to show the number of users, okay, that have been using HINCare. Starting from the very beginning, okay, we have one NGO joining us, and this NGO has 180 members, not bad, okay. And then, okay, during during this year, so you notice that we start just about 1 year before the COVID, and then when COVID happens, actually the growth is not that high, okay. But luckily now, okay, we are growing to more and more number of users, and recently actually we checked it, we have more than 10,000 users in our system, and this represents about more than 45 times growth in the past 3 years. And then, okay, another important figure is to show the number of time credits exchanged, okay, among the users, okay? So it is about a recording of how many time credits are spent and how many time credits are gained, okay, and we get the total. So, so we find that, okay, here we still see a very high growth of the time credits, okay? But in the past 2 years, okay, 2020 to 2022, there's about only accumulation of 4 million minutes. But just in 2023 alone, we have seen already 8.6 million minutes. So this is quite encouraging. And also another interesting way to look at this, the minutes, okay, or the time credits that have been accumulated, is to try to exchange it, okay, in terms of the dollar sign, okay. So what this means is that if we assume that, okay, in Hong Kong, we have 40 Hong Kong dollars, okay, about $5 US, okay, $5 US per hour, okay, then this means 7 million Hong Kong dollars have been saved, okay, because all these activities, okay, don't involve any monetary activities. So that is why we can also say that our system saves about 7 million Hong Kong dollars, okay, for our society. Okay, so this is also called social credit, by the way, or social capital. All right. So basically, this is the introduction of our HINCare app. Okay, and again, okay, we have just demonstrate our app in the web conference. Okay, and also another exciting news is that recently we have got 15 million Hong Kong dollars donation from the Little Bluebird Foundations for 5 years of development and promotion. So we hope that in the next 5 years, we could help HINCare to try to even involve more NGOs or even corporates or companies to invest, okay? And also try to see whether they can make use of the ESG money to try to encourage more users to join. Okay, and if you're interested in our project, you can just take a look at our web, okay, which is the www.hincare.hku.hk. All right. So I still have some slides to go. Okay, actually, yeah, just 10 more minutes to try to tell some other things that our lab is doing. So in fact, as you can see our logo, okay, I represent the STAR Lab. Okay, what is the STAR Lab? STAR Lab represents the Social Technology and Research Laboratory, okay, which now, okay, we have received a lot of support from among our university and also some charity organizations. And right now, we have about 20 developers, 4 professors, 5 postdocs, and 10 PhD students. And the lab is actively developing a lot of things that are related to social care, including HINCare, for example, and other projects, especially also app and game design, video production, and so on. And one of the projects I want to quickly show to you that my lab is doing is this Smart Family Link project. So this project is a very ambitious project. Okay, it has supported by close to 150 million Hong Kong dollars. Okay, a lot of money. And basically, what this project aims to do is to provide state-of-the-art family care systems for all the NGO-based family care centers. And of course, okay, for my profile, I'm also interested because they give me the opportunity to also study how we can analyze those data. Okay, and especially, okay, the main goal here is to try to help the family care workers or their center supervisors to have a better understanding of their data analytics so that they can use this data as a way to drive their policy or decision making. And here we have 11 NGO partners, and we are serving almost close to 40% of all the family care center services provided to Hong Kong. So here I just want to show the data analytics system that we have been providing and developing for our NGO partners. So here you can see that there is a very clean interface just showing some graph and curves, okay, about the family care problems, okay, or the cases that have been stored in the system. And another tool, which I think I really want to show to you, is that we call it a case classification tool. So basically, this tool is like a classification, but it is tailor-made for the family care users. Okay, so in which the family care center supervisors, they could try to look at the cases in a very simple manner to try to analyze the case. Okay, say for example, they're interested in cases in the year 2022. Okay, and then they can input different categories of the problems that they want to look at. Okay, and also different marital status and so on. Okay, and in the end, they will get this thing like a classification tree. Okay, classification tree model in which they can break down a set of cases into different age groups and also their housing situations. So the NGO users can look at this diagram to see what is interesting or important pattern to the cases that they have been handling. Okay, and we also spend a lot of the time, okay, to try to develop a so-called geoinfo map for them. Basically, this is like a geoinformatic visualizations, okay, in which the different circles represent the cases. For example, about the divorce cases that have been happening in this housing estate, and the larger the circle, it means that the more divorce cases are there. And more recently, because of the AI heat wave, right? So we are also trying to see whether some of the AI could be used in this project. Okay, so here we are developing a data bot, okay, based on OpenAI, in which the users can type in some simple questions, which are mostly about some statistics. For example, if you look at the diagram on the left, okay, we could allow the user to choose, okay, different cases they're interested, okay, and say, for example, they're looking at child protection cases and they want to look at the number of child protection cases in the past 3 years, for example. So we are building this user interface so that our social worker users can type in these questions very easily, okay, and then they could extract some numbers, and also using the OpenAI together with the open data that we get to try to give them some simple answers, okay, or detailed answers based on the need of in the chat. Okay, and we have to also do a lot of hard work actually to collect a lot of open source data, for example, to drive the data bot that I just discussed before. So together with this open data and also the family care case data that we have collected from the center, we hope to develop a very large data repository, which could also be very user-friendly to those users in it. Because those users, you know, they're basically the family care supervisors or the social workers. So they may not be very well-trained IT people, okay? So if we really want data analytics and AI to be useful to them, okay, we really have to listen to their needs, Okay? That is the lesson I learned. Okay, so even if you develop very advanced AI, but if they cannot satisfy the need, they will not use it. Okay, and that's why we also have to provide some training sections to do this social worker people regularly. Okay, so finally I want to use this time to also advertise a little bit about what are the other research work that I've been doing. Okay, so the work that I've been doing now, is focused on graph analytics. Okay, which I call it motive analytics. So what motive analytics doing is to try to understand that a graph is not just a number of nodes connected by the edges, but in fact they are built by many different patterns, which is known as motive. So for example, in this graph about the COVID-19 related informations, this motive is a wedge connecting city, string, and branch. Okay, and if we look at a graph, which is constructed by these basic units of patterns, in which that you are not just considering the graph as simple connection of nodes and the edges. In fact, there are a lot of things that can be interesting. Okay, so that is why we have been actively publishing in this area to try to see how we can use motive as a way to analyze the graph to find different things. Okay, and more recently, in the coming VLDB conference, we are going to present one of the fastest algorithms in discovering motives from large graphs. Okay, so I'm not going to get into detail because of the time limitation. Okay, another work that we will also present in VLDB, is we are trying to handle a traditional problem in database known as entity alignment. Okay, so an entity alignment, when we are talking about two knowledge graphs, it means that, for example, these two knowledge graphs, they are all about some connections among different countries or places. Okay, but they may be using different names, in the entity and also in their nodes and also in their edges. So we want to find out whether the node G, for example, is just the same as the node I in another knowledge graph. So this is called entity alignment. And again, we try to see in this work, whether it is possible for us to use the language models, for us to do this traditional task. Okay, so our main idea is to develop something called graph to text, in which we try to translate the connections, or these edges into sentences. Okay, so that means every node, together with the neighboring nodes, they becomes a paragraph to describe the relationship with other nodes. And then we use this paragraph to see how we can match the paragraph representing another node in the in another knowledge graph to see whether there is a high similarity among these paragraphs. Okay, so in order to do this, we have to build a complex structure, which involves the use of the so-called pre-trained learning model, to try to embed the paragraph into vectors and so on. Okay, so I'm not going to get into detail again. If you're interested, we can see each other in VLDB. Okay, and here in this figure, we are showing how our approach could also be used to do schema linking, which is a very important process in the so-called NLP to SEECS process. So basically, the question is, if I give you a natural language question, how can I translate this question into a SEECS query? And with our entity alignment approach, we could improve this process. All right, and finally, we have also built a benchmark, in which is one of the largest benchmark for translating natural language questions into SEECS queries. And in fact, a lot of companies come to us and ask us to try to evaluate their ChatGPT or different large language models and the performance on our databases. And we have provided a scoreboard, so that they can compete with each other, to see which of them achieve a higher accuracy. All right. So I think, yeah, these are just some pictures to show that because of our HINCare project, we have luckily obtained 5 awards, in both the university and also some of the software competitions in Hong Kong. So finally, this is my last page. Okay, I really want to thank my students and my very professional programmers and designers to help us to design these wonderful applications. And my main message is that this the data science for social good. Okay, it's really interesting because there are a lot of the data. Okay, that we can play with. Okay, and for me, it's also very rewarding because it also gives me some new dimensions of understanding of how to talk to the social workers and try to understand their need in order to design the best tools for them. Okay, so with this, I will finish this talk. Okay, so I welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chang. I think it's very interesting and very impactful research. I think what you're doing in terms of the HIN project. I think we'll open up Q&A and then we'll start taking questions. Maybe I'll start with the first question.
Sure.
I'm just curious to see, not on the more on research, but in the age groups for the elders, what type of services they're actually going after that they seek most often. What are those 2-3 top thing that they need? Is it like a haircut or some kind of a thing that they need immediate help?
Yes. So in fact, in one of the pages, I show some of these. Okay, but I can tell you that actually they provide some very basic form of the services. Those services. Okay, you don't find very useful, do you? Okay, they're about, for example, household duties, going up to the house to clean the apartment. Okay, or bring them to the hospital for regular check. Okay, or provide some learning classes for mobile phone. Okay, or going to see movies and so on. Okay, there are many different kinds of activities actually. Okay, but the different NGOs provide the different services. Okay, so that is why the interesting part here is that we try to abstract this, okay, into just a list of services, because to us we are just a software vendor, right? We are just I don't care whether you call this household cleaning or you call it apartment cleaning. Okay, it's just a list of services. You give me the list of the service, I provide this app to you. Right, so that is the main idea. And as I share in some my previous pages, okay, I think one of the popular services is mobile phone learning. Okay, there's many elders. Okay, they don't know even how to use the mobile phone, so it's actually a headache, because we provide the app to them if they don't need to know how to use it. Okay, it is a waste, right? But on the other hand, we try to make it as easy as possible for them, and we even have the agent function in which they could delegate the usage to their sons or daughters. Okay, so that someone can represent them to use the app as well. Okay, so depending on different NGO, they have different services. Okay, and yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think that's thank you. The time banking concept, right? I know you mentioned some of these organizations are already doing some kind of volunteering or charity or services. Do we have in your discussions or in this project, are there any particular rewards do they get in return of their time, or do they get some kind of recognition in some form, not necessarily monetary, but it could be non-monetary thing too. So I'm just curious to see, what did you learn from this reward mechanism? Because we can actually mimic such concept for time banking for a wide variety of applications. And I'm just curious to see how are your users are rewarded?
Yeah, so it's also a very good question. Actually, when we start this project, the so-called rewards are just another kind of services. Okay, so for example, okay, let's say I'm a very good photographer. Okay, but I could not walk very easily. Okay, so okay, I need someone to help me. Okay, to take me to some places. Okay, but on the other hand, I can earn my credits first. Okay, by just sitting at home and doing photograph editing for other users and earn my time credit units for that. Okay, so it started at the very beginning, that service exchange for services. Okay, but then later on, okay, the NGO told us that the users are more interested in the gifts. Okay, or the things, okay, that are provided by the NGO. So again, those things, many of them, they come from donations. For example, they could be just a bag of rice, for example. Okay, or they could be a cup mat. Okay, or some things, okay, some plants that are made by the elders, they want to share with others. Okay, and in fact, okay, we're a very small team. We cannot do all this. Okay, so all these exchange activities are done by the NGOs themselves. Okay, the NGOs, some of them are very active. For example, they organize some big bazaars. Okay, in which they have tens of booths. Okay, in which they showcase different kind of things that the elders can take or exchange. The main idea is to put them together and try to help them to communicate more rather than just idling at home. And they encourage the elders to use our app to help them to get these rewards. Okay, and I think we need to do some more data analytic, okay, to see what are the kind of rewards they want. Actually, we have not done this. It's a very good question, actually. Yeah.
Great. Let me read some questions. What's coming up? Is your client application backend available as open source software?
At this point, no. Okay. But I think sooner or later, I think that we will try to make it more and more open. Okay. For example, actually, we are trying to think about whether it is possible to open some API, okay, so that other developers can also use some of our system, okay. At this point, I do think we are not ready for the open source. We're going to keep changing it. Yeah, keep updating it. Okay, every day we receive requests for NGOs saying that, okay, your fonts are not good. Okay, you should use a larger button and so on. And so, yeah, so
And I have a couple of other follow-up questions from Dave Loper. And could your data be stored safely between two public blockchains, one for the distributed IDs for individuals and a separate chain for the social credit balance? Have you thought
yeah.
about it? Yeah.
Yes, yes, this is also very, very good question. At this point, no, okay, we didn't use any blockchain, okay, we just put our data into the cloud. And why we don't need the blockchain? Because right now, each NGO has their own virtual space, okay, so the time credits earned from one NGO cannot be shared with another NGO, okay. But once you get into sharing, the blockchain will come into play because, okay, you need to have a secure communication, right? You don't want the data to be all put into the central, right? For better security and so on. So I think that the benefit of the blockchain will come when this time credits becomes a global currency, right? So if I earn my service or earn my time credits in one NGO and I want to spend in another NGO because that NGO is very rich, they have a lot of gifts, okay? But this NGO has no gifts, okay? So I want to go to another NGO to get my gifts. Then how can my time credit be used? Okay, just like you earn your money here, how can you spend your money in another country, right? So this basically also raise an interesting question of how to do sharing. It's more than just blockchain, actually. Okay, we need to solve the non-technical problem. Okay, about how to have agreement among different NGO, because as I said earlier, actually, one-time credit, okay, very differently in different NGO, right? One NGO will say that, okay, you have to work 1 hour before you get one-time credit. Another NGO is more generous, maybe 1 minute, one-time credit, or they may even give it to you. So how can you balance all this? Is not straightforward, okay? But the blockchain, I think, will definitely help. Okay, so that's why we are also thinking about how can we develop in this direction. Yeah.
I know you may have already have talked about this. I have one question where you have a couple of other questions coming up as well. So I'm just quickly want to ask this. Do you have more and more time credit exchange between NGOs in some, do you see that, or do you see more within NGOs? There's lots of, a participation. How do you see in your app the time banking concept in terms or do you see both combination? Do we have, do we have like, or maybe I don't have people right now in this NGO one, but we have some people in NGO two, they want to offer some services, I don't know. Is that something that,
Yeah, I guess your question is there may be an imbalance, right, in terms of the services provided and also the gifts, okay, the gifts available, right? The one NGO
yes,
may
yes.
switch but If I do
Yes, the
not belong,
services are also exchanged. Maybe some NGO may not provide certain services, but there are other services offered by the NGO. They're also, together working and trying to meet the demand or what these elderly people is asking. But anyway, I'll just come back to other questions. I would like to ask how recommendation systems can be enhanced with agent-based modeling. Is it possible to ensure human-agent collaboration for progressing to the social good and digital tools better? I think, do you use any agent-based framework in your?
no, we didn't use agent-based framework. So our recommender system is, as I said before, is a graph or HIN-based recommender systems. Okay? So we are basically relying on the relationship among nodes representing the users. Okay, and then use the graph to do recommender systems. Okay, I don't know whether the agent-based modeling would be useful, but I think it could be an interesting direction. Yeah.
We have a question from Dr. Jun Lu. Could you please point out to the suitable literature of forming a group in a very few number of rounds over asynchronous communication and uncertain availability of notes? Dr. Jun Lu, do you want to speak up? You want to move it to?
Yeah. Can you explain your question?
Jameson, could you make Dr. Jun Lu as a panel so he can ask the question?
All right. Thank you. And yeah, so after just watching your presentation, it's actually just led me to think about that. The following the approach of the recommendation system, probably it can be possibly offer me some helps that to solve the problem that in the group communication. So generally the communication overhead in the group communication is generally high. So right now I have the need to reduce the communication overhead. So I'm thinking about trying to read into some literature to let me to see, figure out a way to possibly reduce the communication overhead. So in my description, I don't know whether you work in the area of the group communication or not. That's why my question may not be easily follow. So is there any just suggestions to think about using whatever the methodology you have already worked with to reduce the communication in group communication?
I see. So is it because you see the fact that actually some nodes are not available, right? For example, the user may not be available at a certain time, right? So
right.
Right. So how is it connected to the forming of the groups in the communication network? Yeah. Actually, to be honest, I don't think we have also really handled this availability issues yet. Okay, we are more focusing on the label, the static information at this point, right? So for me, it's also an interesting question. If some nodes are available and unavailable at some time, right? How can you do recommender system, and how this could provide insights, okay, to the problem in network. Okay?
I think that's a very important question also Dr. Junlu asked. I think as the networks could scale and if you see some collisions or congestion in the network, how do you streamline the group communication? Do we need another version, maybe new models for the knowledge graphs that you talked about, can able to see if there's also have some kind of trade-off that reduces the overhead in some means. But I don't know. I think a great question, Dr. Jun.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think, in the interest of time, I think, I'm going to see if I have any more questions to, there's one question. Are there any assistive devices which can be requested as part of the services? Is elder people are asking for any assistive devices in the HIN? Or they can request any type of service, I'm assuming, I think, depending on which NGO has to offer, those services.
Well, currently we're still focusing on mobile phones, but we also add the feature of voice assistance, okay? Or in which when they touch a button for a longer time, then some voice will be read out talking about what is the functionality of the button. Okay, some assisted features, and we also try to use larger fonts and buttons to try to make it easy for the elders. And in the future, I'm thinking about also another interesting issue is to try to see whether we could use a speech model, okay, rather than always looking at the screens, okay, and do a lot of use a lot of touch screen features. But if you just say, I want to find someone to help at 3 p.m. today, okay, and okay, if we could make use of the natural language interface better, okay, to train the LLM model, okay, so that we could translate this request more accurately to the functions. I think this is also a great assistance features in terms of the software. Yeah, for hardware, we haven't done a lot on this because with the mobile phone, it's a lot of things to trouble already. Actually, most of the time right now we have to fix our app, okay, because of regular update from Apple and Android, Google Play, and sometimes, okay, because of the more obsolete mobile phone model and our app cannot work. Okay, the NGOs will keep calling us. Okay, so you have to fix this for us. Okay, and then we have to do a lot of changes.
Yes, I know. Make it sustainable, operational all the time. I think there are a lot of improvements, so the app needs to be time. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to close the webinar right now. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I think it's a great honor to have you on board. You will receive a nice plaque from UND and a certificate from our dean. And thank you so much for joining. And look forward to working with you in future as we try to see what ways we can collaborate. Consider coming to UND for a visit, I'll send you an invite. Thank you.
Yeah, your background is very nice. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Prakash. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah.